Hello and welcome back to another Doctor Who action figure review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 13th Doctor's collector set, which is a bit of a mouthful, which features a Weeping Angel / Screaming Angel, depending on which variant you buy, the 13th Doctor as seen in Once Upon a Time, and Yaz as she appears in Eve of the Daleks. So before we actually take a look at these figures, let's get the boring part out of the way and take a look at the packaging. As ever, the figures are housed in the blue and grey style guide with the TARDIS and the Doctor Who logo on the side. And then on the back we have the synopsis about the 13th Doctor and some of her travels. Nothing really about the Weeping Angels as such, but there you go. The figures out of the box look great. Here we have all new variants with some new tooling, I might add, which I will get onto in a bit. But one thing I would like to add is that this is the first time I've actually reviewed anything from Jodie's era on my channel. It has taken me a while, considering I do have bits of her merch boxed away, so I may talk about her merchandise of her era in another video at some point. Anyway, before I get sidetracked. Taking a look at the 13th Doctor, we do have a new version of her, which is based on her appearance from Once Upon a Time. The main difference here is that the coat is now inverted, as it was in that story, with it being painted in this lovely dark blue, and the detailing of all the rainbows going down the front are pretty much the same. The sculpt is just very natural here, with all the creases in the back and just how the coat flows. It just looks really detailed. As well as that, the t-shirt detailing is very nice and crisp, although I think it does look a bit bland compared to her on-screen counterpart. Another thing to note is that they haven't painted the braces, which is a bit of a shame. However, this look does pop up again in the recent episode of Power of the Doctor, where in fact she did wear blue braces along with this coat. So you could argue to say that this is based on that look instead of what the figure is actually supposed to be based upon. Taking a look at the head sculpt, the paint apps are really nice and crisp. It looks a lot like Jodie, and I love how they've done the hair, with the main coat here being yellow and these lighter washes over the top. You also have the darker colours near the roots, which just looks really accurate, and which I just love how it all pops. It's a great sculpt overall. The likeness here does resemble Jodie Whittaker very much in my eyes. Taking a look at the trousers, they have also been cast in this blue plastic which resembles the garment as seen on screen. And then finally you have the boots and sock sculpt, which is a very superb bit of detailing here. The socks have just been painted in a similar blue to the trousers, and then you have the boots that have just been painted brown with some lighter washes over the top to represent the worn leather. It's a very nice variant to finally have on the shelf, as it's not much of a surprise that this would have actually come out eventually, considering how easy it would have been to make. I must admit I do prefer this variant of her costume than I do on her actual costume, as I think it goes better with the rest of the outfit, but that's just me. It's just a shame we didn't get to see more of this outfit on screen. My only criticism with the 13th Doctor figures in general is just the rainbow pattern on her t-shirt / jumper is very dull, and I think it's not the greatest representation, but here we are. So moving on to Yaz, this is another refresh of a figure that we've had before, mostly in regards of the head that has been updated. As you can see, she now has a simple ponytail instead of the bobbles she had going on with the previous one. I believe Al did state that the sculpt was damaged or something along those lines, but now that we have this, I can see them doing more releases in the future, as she did have her hair more like this in many other stories in this era. The body is the same, however, which is an old primeval figure repurposed to represent the costume that she wore in Eve of the Daleks. But more on that later. As ever, the head sculpt is brilliant. I just love all the paint apps that have been applied, which are very nice and crisp. Maybe a little softer this time around. I can't really tell without comparing it to the original. It's a nice representation of Mandip. And like I said, the costume itself is based on her look from Eve of the Daleks. And I think this is where reusing old parts actually work here. The jacket has been repainted in this dark brown, and the creasing on the sculpt really makes it look like a leather jacket. The shirt itself has just been painted black with these little red splotches added on top, which does really represent what was seen on screen, but I think a little bit more could have added to the reddish colour, in my opinion, but, you know, it's still nice nonetheless. Trousers have just been cast in this charcoal grey, with the boots being painted in a matte black. Again, it's really nice to see that Yaz has been added to this set, especially since the head sculpt has been updated. I really like that they've now added a ponytail on because, like I said, she did tend to have her hair like this in later stories, especially in Flux, so I hope we do get more variants of Yaz, or even a version of her from Power of the Doctor. Taking a look at the monster of this set, we have the Weeping Angel as seen in Village of the Angels. The reasoning for it being this interesting colour is due to the fact that this particular angel was the one we saw pop out of the TV screen and trying to attack the Doctor and co. One thing that I would like to add with this particular set, that there is actually two versions out in the wild. Just like the 5 Doctor set that we saw last year, the Weeping Angel has either got its more neutral pose or its screaming face. Now for me, I personally wanted to get the variant that was just screaming, just because that was how we saw the monster on screen. This isn't actually a new concept, as they did release one way back when for Time of Angels, which was unblemished, and some later variants I believe contained some glitter to represent some of the noise from the projection, which I always thought was pretty cool. This time around we have a blue variant, as this was how it was depicted on screen. The detailing on these figures alone are superb, with all the creases on the skirt and on the torso. The wings are also very detailed, with all the depictions of feathers going down the wings, and the head sculpt alone is very detailed, even though it's translucent. You also have all the teeth and the wrinkles on the side of their eyes and on the forehead. I'm quite happy to have a new variant of this monster instead of just having another standard angel, which the majority of collectors probably have by now. I mean, we could have had the Rogue Angel with the scarring on the face, but I didn't think it would be in their budget to do so. This is a cool figure nonetheless, and it is something quite unique to put into your collection. So for articulation for the 13th Doctor, there is a fair bit on here. You've got articulation at the head, and this can actually do a full 360 without risking any damage to the neck or the hair, because the head itself is on a ball joint, and it's quite good to be fair, because you can make her look like she's looking up to the stars, which is really cool. She has also got articulation in the arms, but I wouldn't recommend doing a full 360 turn, because you could probably damage the paint quite badly on the shoulder, so I wouldn't really recommend that there. She also has articulation at the biceps, which can do a full 360 turn. She also has elbow articulation, wrist articulation, but mine are quite stiff, so again, be wary. She also has waist articulation, but it is slightly hindered by the coat. I mean, it can work to an extent, but yeah, it is what it is, unfortunately. And then the legs can move forward and out to the sides, and she can also bend at the knee. And again, if you want to, you can make her look like she's running to an extent. Come on, Jodie. Come on. Ah. So for articulation for Yaz, again, pretty basic. Unfortunately, the head does not move. I have no clue why this isn't working, but I don't really want to force it. It just feels like I'm tearing the plug, so I'm not going to bother there. The arms can do a full 360 turn. The biceps can do a full 360 turn. She also can bend at the elbow, and also has wrist articulation. She also has waist articulation, thigh articulation. Her legs can also sort of move all forward and out to the side, but if you do that too much, you're going to damage the plastic on the front, so I don't recommend doing it too much. And she can also bend at the knee. So for the Weeping Angel, this figure in particular has a fair bit of articulation, but at the same time is hindered in certain places. So she has a ball jointed head which can slightly move up and down, but you can't really tell, to be fair. And it can also do a full 360 turn. The arms can also move up and down, but they are hindered by the wings, so the only way you can make them do a full 360 is if you actually detach the wings. She also has bicep articulation. The elbows can bend into a 90-degree angle. Articulation at the wrists, but they are very fragile. I mean, they're like that on every angel I've owned. They just come out so easily, so I wouldn't recommend it. And she also has articulation at the waist. Nothing at the bottom, it's all solid. And she also has articulation in the wings, which makes it look like she is flapping, which is, pretty cool. Overall, this is another fantastic set for this year's wave. Like I said in the past, I know fans are desperate for other characters such as the Fugitive Doctor or Sacha Dhawan's Master, or some of the villains we've seen during her tenure. But like I always say never. It could possibly happen. With a budget set from B&M, I can't see it happening as of yet. Saying that, with it being the 60th anniversary next year, it is possible. Personally, I'm happy we've got something over nothing, which is always a bonus. The new version of Yaz is very cool, and I'm glad we've got the darker coated 13th Doctor as an official release. And that pretty much wraps up this review. If you want to grab this set for yourself, then I highly recommend trying to get it online. If not, go into B&M stores to try and track it down, as this is a must for any 13th Doctor fan out there. And stay tuned for some more Doctor Who action figure reviews coming very soon.